And so, springing from there, that must have changed your acquisitions and exhibitions purpose, and you started collecting more widely and showing a wider group of artists.
The Ben-Uri, you have to understand that Ben-Uri was a community institution. It didn't see itself, and it didn't actually perform, if that's the correct word, as a museum in terms of museum status, museum standard of exhibitions, museum scholarship, museum acquisitions. So we relied on very little charitable money and whatever paintings anybody would give to us, and we accepted them, which created a different problem, 20 years later, if you like, or 18 years later, when we actually, readdressed the collection completely. So we accepted whatever works, generally speaking, whatever works we were given, and grateful for their donation. But we set that aside, and we said, well, that was yesterday. What we need is an acquisitions policy. We need to know which artists, who are the artists that we want in the collection. What works do we want from them in the collection? What period do we want from them in the collection? Because if you're building a collection is no different to building a huge wall. It all has to fit at some stage. There will be bits that don't fit, but then you have to get more cement and stick it on the sides. So we created an acquisition strategy, and we knew what artists we wanted, and we knew what periods we wanted, and then we started to acquire. And I should say that without the support of the Art Fund, and the Lottery Fund, and the V&A Purchase Grant Fund particularly, and supported by like-minded philanthropists that we could engage with, we could never have rebuilt the collection or built the collection as we have done in the last 20 years. And these institutions they're the Holy Grail. They are really the most important institutions in the sector. So that's where we got to, and we then set about acquiring great works. Can I tell them a little story? Can I tell them a little story?
Please do.
Okay. So we were very early on. We were a bunch of collectors, dealers, and some would say insane, passionate people who really wanted to make Ben-Uri something special. And a picture came up in Sotheby's in 2002 in the catalogue. Mark Gertler, Rabbi Robertson, yes, watercolor, da, da, da. And we were either all collectors or dealers, okay? That was the milieu that I brought together. The emails were flying around, yes? Oh my God, have you seen this picture? And every one of us wanted to buy it, and every one of us knew that Ben-Uri had to have it. It was our way of laying down our marker. And we went to Sotheby's, and we said, we would like to buy this out of the sale. And they said, oh, you can't do that. And we said, well, actually, you can, if you want to. And the Sotheby's were actually, once we got over that hurdle, they were great, and they allowed us to make a presentation to them, who would then take it to the owner. Okay. We knew who the owner was because it was an exceptionally well-recorded painting. There was actually two paintings. The other one was in the British Museum. And the owner of the painting was so excited and delighted that Ben-Uri had this ambition that he allowed us to buy it at a fraction of what Sotheby's said it would sell for. It was well over the estimate, but nonetheless it was a fraction of Ben-Uri's view, and it was a fraction of what some of us would have paid for it. And we got the picture, and I said to Sotheby's, please don't withdraw it, don't put a sign up withdraw it. Please announce at the sale that the picture had been saved for the nation, purchased by the Ben-Uri Gallery and Museum. And they agreed, they were terrific. And there were various people in the room who had come specifically to buy that painting, we knew. And they announced it. They said, lot 52, Mark Gertler, and then he said, saved for the nation, purchased by the Ben-Uri Gallery and Museum. And it was absolutely stunned silence. And then so I put my glasses down. And I decided to go, and the room started to clap because it was a museum buying the picture. It was a memorable, wonderful moment. And that established our credentials in the fact that actually we knew what we were doing, we knew where we wanted to do it, we wanted what artworks and what artists we wanted, and that opened the floodgates to allow us to rebuild the collection.
That's a lovely story and a way to sum up this kind of period of growth and success. And Ben-Uri, if 1995 was a low point with the closure of the gallery above the synagogue, a momentum that you and the other trustees brought to acquisitions, and also a gallery in St John's Wood. And I suppose, thinking of the time that we have and thinking, kind of fast forwarding a little bit, there seems to be two key challenges which you became more and more aware of during the noughties, during the 2010s, as a small museum that the gallery and museum faced. And I suppose, from my perspective, they seem, one of those was audience reach, really. So it's a small, fantastic gallery in NW8, and I'm aware that you felt that you were outgrowing it, you weren't reaching sufficient numbers of people.
Look, we are, to an extent, museums are manufacturers of product. Let's take it out of the museum sector, let's take it into the real world, okay? We produce a product. The Royal Academy produces a product. So it has two functions. It has a production function, and it has a distribution function. No point in just producing it and then not allowing anybody to see it or not engaging people to see it. So we had two parts of the equation. And we realized very early on, we realized before we took this small gallery in St John's Wood, because that was, for us, the greatest achievement, because we didn't have a gallery before that. So, but we knew that we are in London. We are in the city with the greatest museums in the world. And the public, their commodity that they are short of is time. And they have to make choices as to how do they invest their leisure time. So are they going to come to Ben-Uri, or are they going to go to the Royal Academy, or the Tate, or the National Gallery? I mean, talk about the minnows and the whales, yes, the ants and the elephants. I mean, you know, we were the minnows and the whales. So we knew that we had to try to find a much bigger institution, a much bigger building in a prime location, as prime as we could possibly get, because if you get the location wrong, it's the kiss of death, because people don't come. And that was our challenge. And we spent 15 years building our reputation, trying to establish, if you like, our credentials to investors, to say, look, we know what we're doing, we understand how to do it, we deliver the highest quality. As somebody once said, you guys are like Tate Jewish. And you know, I said, well, that's okay. We could live with Tate Jewish if that's what it is. But that's the quality standard that we want. And we tried on a number of occasions and got very close on a number of occasions to getting 15,000, 20,000 square feet in central locations. But we didn't make it. There wasn't the appetite to actually fund in the right location. We got lots of offers of buildings and parts of buildings in the wrong location, which we always resisted, because we knew that location, 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 and in case anybody doesn't realize, it's all about location. So we managed to resist that. But then we had a situation of, what do we do, Sam? We built a product based on quality. We built an academic research unit that actually is pioneering its research in this area. But not to be able to share it to the widest audience is such a waste. What's the point of producing a great product if nobody will actually use it or buy it? And that was our dilemma. And we had our centenary exhibition in 2015 at Somerset House, which was a cracker of an exhibition with a cracker of a book called Out of Chaos. And we got 30,000 people, but we didn't get £30,000.
So a question here, did that surprise you? Has it surprised you over the more than 2 decades you've been at Ben-Uri, that something in a way that is so well defined, Jewish contribution to British art, Jewish and immigrant contribution to British art, that there wasn't sufficient philanthropy within the Jewish community for a start to help fund a new space?
A potent question, Sam. Well, the answer is I don't know whether I was more disappointed than surprised. Our philosophy was that if we lift Ben Urry and the quality standards that we generate to that of a national museum, then actually people would support it. They would see the merit and they would see that actually this is worthwhile investing in. I come from the business world, I come from the corporate world, and you invest in people and you invest in the business concept and the machinery of that business. And if none of these three actually tick the boxes, you don't invest because the risk is too high. So we thought if we create that, then people would invest. And they didn't. And maybe they didn't because we had already clearly made it very clear that we were very proud of our Jewish heritage. I mean, bursting with pride of our Jewish heritage. But we weren't in the Jewish business. We were representing the Jewish community in the mainstream and representing the Jewish contribution to British visual culture since 1900, alongside the contribution that other immigrant communities had made to British visual culture. So perhaps because we had sort of just stepped outside, and also you have to understand that the Jewish community is a small community. I mean, in London there's around maximum 200,000 people. It's a very small community. It's very philanthropic, but it's none small. And its focus has to be on health, welfare, and education, not necessarily the visual arts. And it also has a Jewish museum that it had to fund for £15 million. So we were, if you like, we were on the edge. We had a foot in and a foot out. And the demands of all communities are so great for charitable funds. So disappointed and surprised. But maybe we didn't pitch it right. I mean, you know, it's not a criticism of the Jewish community. It's just whatever it was, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the influence to generate that sum. And they also had, at this stage, already invested many, many millions of pounds creating a Jewish museum. So we were, we made our own bed and we lied. We lay in it. We accepted that. But yes, disappointed and surprised.